Good evening and welcome to another edition of State of Affairs. A happy Eid al-Fitr to all our Muslim brothers and sisters. My name is Abena Ousunyamisha, bringing you tonight's edition of the show. It's the holiday edition. We have an exclusive interview with Elvis Afriyie Ankrah. He's a former youth and sports minister. We'll be bringing you that shortly. But of course, we've got a couple of stories for you. But before that, let's go to the eibelections.com and bring you the opinion polls. Let's check out who is leading on that site. And so if you haven't participated in that particular polls yet, just log on to eibelections.com and cast your vote so that the next time we roll out the opinion polls, your vote would count. It's eibelections.com, or you can download the EIB election app on your Play Store. Let's begin with some stories, and of course today is Eid al-Fitr. Some leaders of Muslim communities in Accra have cautioned the youth to shy away from politicians who will lure them into disturbing the peace in the upcoming polls. According to them, the actions of some Muslim youth have attracted negative perception that Muslims are violent. Hence, a lot is needed to be done to correct that notion. Alice Aite has more.
Muslims in Ghana today joined their counterparts across the world to celebrate the Eid al-Fitr. The day marks the end of the 30-day fasting and prayers demanded of every Muslim in the holy month of Ramadan. It is also a time to be charitable to those in need, as well as celebrate with family and friends. Just like other holidays in the country, people from all walks of life join in the celebration despite their different religious beliefs. The State of Affairs team went round some Muslim-dominated communities or zongos in the capital during the day to find out how the revelers celebrated the occasion. We found both men and women in their various homes and on the streets dressed up, visiting their friends and families and sharing food as part of the celebrations. While others were riding on motorbikes, some also had put speakers along the streets and were dancing. The children were also not left out in the celebrations. We sought to find out if they understood the purpose of Eid al-Fitr celebration.
What are you celebrating today?
Eid al-Fitr.
Eid al-Fitr. What does it mean? Why are you celebrating Eid al-Fitr?
Eid al-Fitr is a celebration. Hey!
We celebrate Eid al-Fitr because we fast for 1 month before we can rest. We do the Eid al-Fitr and we rest on the 30th day of the month.
Because we fast for 1 month and we break it on the Eid al-Fitr day. So we thank God.
So what have you been doing since morning?
We have been going to the mosque to pray.
Some of the chiefs and leaders of the Muslim communities we visited decried the manner in which the youth engage in nefarious activities, all in the name of Salah.
It's disappointing because people see us, as something that we are off track. But that's not how we celebrate our Salah. This is Salah, you can see it. You have to look calm. You have to at least. But those boys, it's unfortunate. But it's for the work of the police. Once the thing have continued, every year is existing. So the police have to step up. I think you get me. So we for Salah, we do it easy and gentle. But anything motto is not Salah, it's something different.
The message is that it's peace and prosperity. Today is Salah Day, and I don't expect our youth to behave ugly. We want them to behave mannerly so that we celebrate a free Salah without any accident or anything. Yeah.
They also advised the youth not to allow politicians to lure them into disturbing the country's peace, particularly in this electioneering.
The issue of negative perception, which has already been fattest to our youth, that especially the youth of Zongo, the perception is that they are not behaving well during the Salah festivities, especially in the election year. We have been talking to them for quite a while. There's a propagation on that going on that. The only problem is that you have to, when you cast your vote, you go back to your house. Don't attach yourself to a politician who will give you money just to go and behave ugly to disturb the election. So I think 2016, I don't think we will have any problem.
Indeed, the day was marked in grand style by both Muslims and not-Muslims. However, the streets of Accra were quiet despite the festivities. Alex Aite took a drive through town and brings us this report.
One thing that most people, especially tourists, do not forget about their visit to the national capital is the traffic jam they go through each day. Ghana is estimated to have 1.2 million vehicles, with 60% of the vehicles in Accra. The country has a total road network of 1,632 kilometers, out of which 1,310 are tarred. It is eminent that the roads in Accra are inadequate, hence the heavy traffic that characterizes most roads within the national capital. As Muslims marked the Eid today, the news team took a ride through some principal streets of Accra to know at first hand the traffic situation. Despite the throng of celebrants in town, most of the busy streets were almost empty. Apart from the Kanishi stretch, which experienced slight traffic, routes like the Graphic Road through to the Mortuary Road to Sukura had only a few vehicles. The situation was no different at the Accra industrial area. We spotted a few commercial vehicles in town, but business was rather slow. Some policemen who spoke off camera attested to the slowdown of activities, adding that their work had thus become less stressful. They, however, noted that they are still on guard to protect the lives of people and will not hesitate to arrest anybody who tries to flout traffic rules or engage in negative activities, particularly in Zongo communities where most of the celebrations are ongoing.
Well, we've been speaking to some Muslims in Aboso, Kai, Zongo, Sukura, and Russia. They sent well wishes to their families. They also want Allah to grant Ghana peace and also understanding among the major political parties as we go into the November polls. And we have an exclusive interview with former President John Agyekum Kufuor, which will air tomorrow, but we've got some excerpts for you.
Eight years should be long enough for anybody with solutions to show. And the current regime has been in power 8 years almost. So if we are not having the solutions, we shouldn't accept shifting of blame onto earlier regimes.
Okay.
AU hasn't failed. I don't agree with that. AU is a very young thing. And I've told you, Africa is huge. I think it's about the second or third biggest continent on the planet, of many countries of diverse backgrounds and stages of development. AU is trying to get all the countries to share a vision of advancement. This time around, not so much of liberation from colonialism and, say, apartheid and domination by other peoples, but to share a vision of how we can develop economically and socially. And it's just a bit over 10 years. And to expect that within the 10 years, there will be such dramatic changes, it's a bit too idealistic. And I'm a pragmatist.
Right. Former President John Kufuor also had this message for Muslims as they celebrate Eid al-Fitr today.
I'm so happy to feel part of the celebration of the Ramadan. And I want to wish the National Chief Imam and all our Muslim brothers and sisters Barakat Dasala. They've done well going through 30 days of sacrifice.
And the former president, that interview was with your regular host, Nana Abanamwa. It will air tomorrow right here on State of Affairs on GhOneTV. We have the election countdown with Benefsin coming your way right now.
The EIB Election Hub. Expect more.
MPP knows that if it's able to maximize its votes in Ashanti, it will help with achieving victory. 38 to 39% of votes the MPP gets in every presidential election, get it from Ashanti and Eastern regions. Ashanti contributes about 24%. Unfortunately, for the two big parties, they cannot meet their targets. The NPP is targeting 80%. It's like exams. If you know you will fail, you won't say you will fail. You tell your parents, oh, daddy, mommy, I will try and pass. 80% is not possible because the MPP's votes in Ashanti has been dwindling. Kufuor got 74% in 2004. He got a little over 72% in the first round in 2008, and he dropped to 70%. So to get 80%, that means MPP is going to jump from 70 to 80. It is difficult because the tensions in the MPP borders on the Kufuor faction and the Nado faction. And the Kufuor faction feels that they are being pushed against the wall. That is going to be a problem. The NDC wants 1 million votes at Adabraka. It will never happen. It's going to be very difficult. They've improved from 24% in 2004 to 26% in 2008 first round, and then 28% in 2012. If they want to get 1 million votes, that means they will get, if using the 2012 figures as analysis, that means they will get 46% plus in Ashanti. No way. Definitely they will battle, but their targets, maybe they set it high. So if they don't get it, they will be concerned or content themselves with loser percentage. If the Ashanti region, the MPP says they can get 74% up from 70, and NDC increase theirs from 28 to maybe 36%. It's going to be interesting because you can't go more than 100%. Well, the MPP has been saying that the NDC government will send more security personnel to Ashanti region to try and intimidate voters. But the MPP is forgetting that they are the main source of the instability that any sensible head of security will send more security personnel to Ashanti region. Nchubo Isiakun, the chairman of the MPP in Ashanti region, has been threatening the NDC that they will visit mayhem on them. He says he'll personally go around. The NDC has been responding on air that they will have cutlasses and clubs ready to defend themselves. We just do 2 statements, inflammatory from MPP and NDC. You have no choice but to send more security personnel. Put these 2 aside. You have Kofi Juma saying that there will be bloodshed, blood will flow on voting day. Nobody in the MPP leadership has the courage to bring him to order. You have Canada Japan insulting the EC chair and saying that if you're not a man, don't go out on voting day, and that all that be die. And nobody in the leadership is able to bring him to order. The President of the Republic goes strong and he's stoned. Stones are thrown at his convoy. And you expect that a sensible security head will send the same number of people he sent in 2012. If the goat or the sheep thinks that he is rubbing the skin on somebody's wall, by the time he's done with peeling the paint, the hair has removed from the body. A word to the wise is in you analyzing what I've said. See you tomorrow.
That was Benefson with the election countdown. We'll bring you more on GH Today tomorrow morning and also on State of Affairs later in the evening, with just 123 days for us to go for the November polls. We'll take a quick break now. When we return, we've got that exclusive with Elvis Afriyie Ankrah, former Youth and Sports Minister. I trust you don't want to miss that. Do stay tuned.
Welcome to my show. I am Nanaba, and it's a pleasure to be here, and I hope you're all having a wonderful day and a wonderful evening. And today my guest is another special. It's good to have all of you in the studio. Clap for yourselves. You're looking very beautiful. You all look amazing. I'm happy to be here. My guest today has a baritone of a voice. He's been noted over the years to rouse the crowd. He can rile up anybody, no matter what mood you find yourself in. Elvis Afriyie Ankrah, Minister of State at the Presidency, is my guest. Let me try before he comes on. Chaboy! Yes. Chaboy! Yes. I can't get it. Please welcome Elvis Afriyie Ankrah. And he's looking good in his wife, isn't he? All right, so we'll continue with the discussion right after this. My guest is Elvis Afriyie Ankrah, Minister of State at the Presidency. It's good to have you here. You're always spotted in white. Is there a reason you always want to be in white at her?
Oh, it's not always. But
most of the time.
I like white. White is for peace, it's for victory. And I'm for peace and I'm for victory.
Right, right. I see. Anyway, so let's start the conversation from your childhood.
Okay.
I know 2 of your brothers.
Okay.
Albert and Yao. Yao says that you were a crybaby when you were young.
How would you know that? I'm 7 years older than him. And he's a British guy who were in Ghana. He was in London, so he wouldn't know.
But I'm sure your parents told him something. Or probably anytime they spoke to you, they heard you crying.
Nah, I mean, just, you know, if you speak to Albert, Albert will be a more reliable witness.
and not Yao.
No.
Okay, but when you were young, did you think you end up in politics? What in your childhood shaped you up for politics?
You know, I have a very, very peculiar childhood. My dad is a pharmacist. My mom started as a midwife. And when I was 8 months old, she had a scholarship to go and study abroad. So she was torn between staying in Ghana, looking after the child, or going abroad. So my grandmother said, no, education you cannot buy. So she left with my grandmother in the village. That is Dodi Papasi.
They left you in the village? Okay.
The Northern Volta. So I actually started school in the village, Dodi Papasi LA Primary School. That's where I started school. And of course, my mom being in the UK, after a while, after class 1 or so, she wasn't happy with me being in the village. So I came down to Accra to stay with an auntie. And I went to St. Michael's. And then after a while, for some strange reason, my auntie moved me to Royal Preparatory. And then from there, she was a headmistress of Roman Catholic Primary. So she then took me from Royal and brought me to Roman Catholic Primary. And that created a big family problem, because why should I be in Saito? So I've been to Saito, I've done brooms and everything any normal Ghanaian child would do. And then my mom wasn't happy, so she took me from that auntie and then took me to another auntie. And then we were then living at...
roamed?
Yeah, Sukura. So Town Council line, and then I went to Datus, Bubuashi. So by the time I was in secondary school, I'd done 4 or 5 primary schools.
You've been all over.
All over.
Did it affect you in any way?
In a positive way.
Okay.
Because that and many, many other experiences, which at that time looked very negative, you know, is what has shaped me. Because I'm able to...
like, for instance?
Oh, you know, being tossed around. Your mom is not here, your dad is not here. I never stayed with my mom and dad together in a home like a normal family, you know. And moving from auntie to auntie, it's not, it wasn't that easy. I mean, when I was with my last auntie, for instance, she was single then before she got married. And I was the one who was doing all the chores. I'll go to the market, Malata market, and come and cook. And she taught me how to cook. I can do abenkwai and katenkwai, everything, you know, because it was just the 2 of us. And then when she started giving birth, all the children, you know, I learned how to take care of them because she was working. And after 6 months or so, she had to go back to work. Sometimes we had house help, sometimes we didn't have, and I had to take care of them. So it shaped me a lot. It's part of the reason why I feel very comfortable anywhere I go, whether it's Nima, Agbogloshi, or Afiadenigba, or, you know, and then at the same time, I can feel comfortable in Wall Street or Mayfair or wherever it is. So that is a positive aspect of it.
So then your wife has been very lucky. Because, you know, a lot of the time, when you're married to a man like you, who has a very busy lifestyle, you're wondering, should I quit my job and stay at home and take care of the children? But you have the experience of taking care of children, so you were of assistance to your wife.
Well, at the beginning, you know, I didn't start with full-time politics. So at the beginning, there was a time when I was doing my master's, and she had to go abroad to study. And so the kids were with me. And then weekends, I'll go to the markets and go and shop with the kids, come home, come and cook for the week, you know. And then even when she came back, I remember those days, once a month or so, on Sunday, I'll decide to cook.
Oh,
but I haven't done that for...
Lovely.
But I haven't done that for a very long time.
She probably misses that a lot.
Oh, I think she does. But she's a fantastic woman, you know.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Anyway, so let's talk about politics. At what point did you think that politics was the way to go? I mean, I know in the university you're very active on the student front, but at what point did you think that, you know, you could be a politician? Because reading your profile, I mean, you were a lecturer as well at some point.
I think I honed my leadership skills from church. You know, from church, I was an usher, Bible school, Sunday school teacher, you know, and all those things. I was also doing a lot of events, emceeing weddings and all that. And so when I went to the university, then some guys encouraged me, you should go for the SRC, go for the SRC. I said, really? They said, oh yeah. I mean, the same principles, leadership principles you've been exhibiting in church and social gatherings, you know. So I contested and I won. And that then opened up the political space for me.
Why the NDC? Why did you choose the NDC?
I don't think I could have supported any other party apart from the NDC. When I was in school, by the time I was in secondary school, I had a certain understanding of how society should be organized. So when Rawlings came on the scene with probity, accountability, and all those things, it resonated with me. So I've always been a follower.
Has he impacted you in any way? I mean, when people hear you speak, they almost think that, you know, Jerry Rawlings is in your body. He's occupying your body.
I can't contain him.
That'll be too much.
That'll be too much. But, I mean, I need to be honest with you. I recall one time, that is 92, before constitutional rule, when, you know, is he going to stand, is he going to, you know. And then he came to KJB And I actually went there because I knew he was going to come. And I was in the crowd, a young guy in the crowd. And, you know, he came around in his military uniform, got down, and then as he was going around, you know, I stretched my hand, and he shook my hand. My goodness. I mean, I didn't want to wash my hands afterwards, you know. I was so excited. Yeah. You know, it was like some electricity passed through me. Yeah. So I've always admired him, and I think that he stood for something. Integrity cannot be faked, you know. All over the years, there's been all kinds of accusations against him. But today, you cannot accuse Rawlings of anything. He has his weaknesses. So
just like anybody.
Exactly. So I have a great deal of admiration for him. And for me, the NDC was just a natural place for me, you know. And then President Kufuor also did a lot. I respect and admire President Kufuor, I have to be honest with you. I do. He's my friend, you know. And I used to give him a lot of pepper.
Yeah.
I used to give him a lot of... Yes, I used to. And I recall after they came to power, and then he met me at the family funeral. You know, my dad is Ashanti, so he met me at the family funeral and he said, "Hey, Afriyie Ankrah, is that you?" I said, "Yes, sir." You know, then we shook hands, and I have a great deal of respect for him. Anybody who has run this country before deserves our respect. Okay. It's not easy.
All right, let's talk more about politics. In 2008, you did a lot of work for the late Professor Mills, and may his soul rest in peace. You were very close to him. How did you take news of his death?
It was, I was devastated. I was devastated. We were quite close. I was both a lecturer and also the Deputy General Secretary in charge of operations. So that is how I worked with the late Professor Mills till the 2008 campaign. So we were very close. We were in South Africa together when it was announced that he was dead. And I recall we were in the house of a very prominent Ghanaian when the news came. He was inside, and I was called, said, you know, the person said, "Tell me the truth. Where is Prof?" I said, "He's here, he's around." He said, "Are you sure?" I said, yeah, he's here. You know, he said, "No, you tell me the truth. Are you sure?" It was Mr. Bafuboni who called. I said, "No, what's the problem?" He said, "Oh, they say he's dead." I said, "What a joke." So when he came out, I gave him the phone, and then he spoke to him, and he said, "Look, I'm alive and well. I'm not dead." And then, so we had to then arrange for him to speak to Radio Gold. And then he spoke, said, "I'm not speaking from the cemetery or something, you know." And then we came back, and by the grace of God, we won the election. So we're close.
Yeah, very close. And then you did a lot of work for President John Mahama as well. You were in charge of communications, or the campaign.
Yeah, I was you
were the campaign manager
coordinator
for President Mahama's team.
Yeah.
Did you think he would win? I mean, when you speak to people in the NDC and you ask, how did John Mahama win? I mean, because he had taken over 3 months to the elections, we don't know how you did it, but he won the election, considering Nana Akufo-Addo had been on the campaign platform for a very long time, a longer period than President Mahama did, and he still won the election. Is there a formula to what you do with these politicians to become president? Why can't you do it for yourself?
Well, first of all, I think that it would be an anathema to attempt to take credit for myself. Okay. The political campaign is just like football. There is no single footballer, no matter how good you are, who can take the ball from the post and dribble and go and score. It doesn't happen. It's always about teamwork. Always about teamwork. Unlike tennis or boxing, that depends on the individual skill. So it's about the team. I was privileged. I was a primus inter pares to be the coordinator. But in NDC, the concept of coordinator is not exactly like the campaign manager we know in the US. You coordinate the president's campaign, and then you link it up with the party. I had an advantage because I was a party person, so it was easy for me to relate. But it's about the team. And more importantly, it's also about the candidate. We had a super candidate. We had a super candidate in the person.
So it was easy to market.
Absolutely. President John Mahama is a formidable political colossus. I'm telling you.
Big words. If you had to serve in another capacity in this country, would it still be on the lines of politics?
You know, I have other interests. I was heading towards ECOWAS UN. That has been my dream.
So you still want to be a diplomat?
That's why I studied international relations, you know. But as the Bible says, hey, you know, the counsel of the Lord shall stand. I didn't plan that I'll be where I am today. So sometimes you can plan, you can have your own plans, but God in his own way will direct you. But my passion, apart from international relations, is also for youth development. I engage a lot with young people. And I find out that a lot of time young people need direction. That's a major problem. The problem we have with graduate unemployment and youth unemployment is twofold. First, what they study in school, but the second is personal development. I've spoken to a lot of people who tell me they're looking for a job. You start talking to them, bring their CV, the CV is in a mess. They have not developed themselves. They have not built their capacity. By the time I finished university, I had read every book on motivation possible. I had read the Bible from cover to cover. I'd read so many motivational books. So when you go out there in the market, there is something in you. You have built yourself up. It's very, very important. But these days, people go to school because, and the schools also, the universities are mass production, you know, thousands of people. So they come out of the university and there isn't much in them. Just a few people who have opportunity, who have guidance. So for me, that is where I have a lot of interest. I had an NGO, New Millennium Foundation. We used to go around and talk to people, teach people how to write their CVs and how to prepare for an interview, you know, but now I don't have the time. It's something that I want to look at. You know, we need to develop the people. The greatest resource the country has is the people, the human beings. And the things that are happening in America, in Korea, and all those things is not, you know, they are not angels, they are not spirits, they are human beings like us. But they've programmed themselves to think in a certain way.
Why do you think people assume that once you become a politician, then you hold the national purse?
I think it's a cultural thing. I'll give you a typical case study.
Right.
And I went to a funeral in Aflao. 2 o'clock, I said I was going to leave. And they said, oh, wait. That time I was the deputy local government minister. Right. And it was an MC's father. I said, no, I needed to go. They said, wait. I waited till about 4. And I said, no, now I have to leave. And one guy, he was a bit tipsy. He said, oh, don't mind him. He's running away because he hasn't got a house in the village. You know, I have a house in the village. And when even if I'm drunk, I can go to my house.
And sleep.
He hasn't got a house in the village. And everybody laughed. You know.
Because he's assuming that once you are a big man, you must have a house
in the village. And you know what? On the way, I called one of my boys. I said, go to the village and get me land. I did. Do you understand me?
Yes.
And so I put up a little house in the village. But if I was an MP in the UK, US, it wouldn't really matter. Yeah. So these cultural things, okay, they also have an impact on us. Okay? You have a house in the village. Somebody also expects that you should do this, you should do that, you should do that. So it puts pressure on us. So that expectation is
Do you think
real.
that is what probably gives rise to corruption in Ghana? Because once you're occupying a certain position,
but you see, there's a topic that at the right time I want to take up. The demand side of corruption. All the NGOs, they are not interested in talking about that because it's not very comfortable and they won't get funding. And the media, you don't want to talk about it.
Really?
Yes, you don't want to. But it is human beings. Let's even forget about money corruption. When it's time for admissions into university, polytechnics, GIJ, SHS, who are the people who come to us to give them protocol?
Parents. Or?
Parents, Ghanaians. And when you tell them that I will not do it, what is their reaction? You see, this is a very complex topic. We can't deal with this
today. No.
You know.
What were your initial thoughts when you were made the sports minister?
I actually made a few phone calls and had a conversation at a certain level, but I'm not prepared to go into the details. But I was told the president gave me his vision, you know, what he wanted to achieve, and especially for the youth and the World Cup and all those things, and to bring transformation and stability. And I was very excited. So once I was clear about the mandate, I went in with all that.
Is there a mafia at the sports ministry?
I haven't seen them.
There's no mafia. I mean, the sports ministry has had 14 ministers in 15 years. That's an average of 1 a year. Very shaky, very discouraging. You're aware of this?
You know, The sports ministry is one of the least understood ministries in the country. First of all, there's this perception that there's plenty money there.
Oh, well. I think so, too.
You do?
Yeah, I mean.
Okay. What is the budget for the sports ministry every year?
Well, I'm not too sure.
Okay. So this year, it was 22 million Ghana cedis. It's been going down, down, down. Now, 22 million is like, is less than a road, okay? So if you take other sectors, roads, communications, health, education, just name it, it's like a drop in the ocean. So if you look at Ministry of Chieftaincy, Ministry of Tourism, Sport, these are the sectors that have the least budget. But somehow, people believe that there's a lot of money there. So first of all, that's not true.
When you went to the sports ministry, did it worry you that there is an overly concentration on football in this country?
That realization was there, but you see, it's again, we don't do the analysis well. Every country has an aspect of sports that it has a niche in, okay? So for instance, if you go to India and they are playing football, nobody is interested. It will be cricket, right? When they are playing cricket, the whole country comes to a standstill. That is why they have the niche. So Ghana, football.
But we haven't won anything major for how many years? 30?
Hold on,
Almost?
hold on. So Ghana is football. Everybody loves football. Every corner, every gutter, they are playing football. So you need to build on your niche. You see, this notion that football must come down for other sports to grow is wrong. You build, for instance, we have cocoa. Cocoa is our niche. You need to develop the cocoa industry whilst you diversify. Okay? Now, what are the facts? The media, your reportage, 80–90% of it is on football. That is who we are. That is what we are. In my time, I brought Magdan in to come and sponsor Magdan tennis. Okay? The swimming team, they won over 30 medals. Okay? The weightlifting, they won over 15 medals. What's this other one? Kickboxing. They won countless number of medals.
But we didn't talk about it.
And what I used to do was that I'll invite them to the office, they'll bring their trophies, and I'll take pictures with them. They just mention it in passing. Some don't even mention it. So there's a lot that we did for the other sports, but I don't control the media. The media's interest is in football. And mind you,
So
I happened to be a minister at a time where we had a World Cup. The World Cup comes every 4 years. And when there is a World Cup is a World Cup.
Right.
People say, oh, you're always with the team. World Cup year, you have to be with the team.
Okay, we'll come back and talk about the World Cup. Brazil 2014 and how Ghana came back with nothing. Stay with us. Welcome back. Welcome back to the show, and I'm still sitting on the couch with Elvis Afriyie Ankrah, the Minister of State at the Presidency. We're talking about the World Cup. What happened in Brazil? In fact, before you went to Brazil, what exactly was that? Did you anticipate that there was going to be a problem from the players, from the GFA, and from your team?
Okay. First of all, I think to be able to understand me and how we prepared for Brazil, my background is events. I've been doing events since, even before I went to university. And for me, I saw this as a platform to promote Ghana. So my approach was going to be slightly different, to use it as a platform to market the country. So I got a very good team. GhOneTV, marketing, advertising, you can't get it better than GhOneTV. Denta, we brought Denta from London. She came at her own cost. We had Kwesi Taylor. We had Ifwa Huajeto, Benunu Mensah. People like that. Brilliant minds who were committed and passionate. We drew a roadmap. We had Fred Dakon. We had a whole program documented and everything. So that was the approach. That was from the events perspective. In terms of the football, I thought that we had put in a lot. If you saw the way we thrashed Egypt, 6 goals to 1 in Kumasi, nobody believed it. But I was very, very confident. I prayed with them and I believed that it was going to happen. But I started noticing something. Initially, I didn't pay much attention to it. A certain media campaign. First of all, the process of budgeting is that the FA will bring their inputs, we'll look at it, we'll add ours, and then we'll take it to the Chief of Staff, who will then make his comments, bring it back before we do a final presentation to the Chief of Staff. Then we now meet the entire cabinet with the President chairing. Then we'll go through line by line. Take this out, subtract this, reduce this before it is approved. Even before the FA brought their inputs, newspaper publications were saying that the budget has been bloated, and NDC papers, and that I was going to siphon that money to contest against the president. I thought it didn't make sense. I mean, anybody who knows me and my relationship with the president, I mean, I'm just a normal guy trying my best. You know, so for me, I ignored it. I think that was my mistake. And it was going on, and some particular radio stations were going on, and TV stations, Sikedie. And my attitude was like, you haven't even gotten the money to D. So what is all this Sikedie? At the end of the day, the truth will stand.
But you have presidential ambitions.
No, I don't. I told you how I got into this.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
It was almost by accident. My focus was ECOWAS, you know. And UN. You know, I just got into this by accident. And somehow people, you know, so that's another story. So I noticed the media thing. It was going on and on and on, but I thought that truth would eventually vindicate me. Against that backdrop, when we went to cabinet...
So you think you should have reacted when some sections of the media was going on and on about the bloated budget?
Exactly. More forcefully, and maybe right from the beginning. I told you earlier that I then did a press conference and put everything out there and got people to understand that, look, the budget goes to the whole cabinet. All the ministers are there. The president sits there, and we go through it. And it was at that point that the budget was cut. So I'm beginning to think that did that campaign influence the cutting of the budget? Because the genesis of the troubles was that the players said they wanted 100,000, and government said we'll give them 82,500. And that was when the problem started. Because the previous World Cup, the first World Cup, they took 50,000. The second one, they took 75,000. So this one, because the money from FIFA had also increased, they said they wanted 100,000. And that's what we proposed to Cabinet. But Cabinet, in its wisdom, said the money should come down. I sensed some danger. So I asked the Chief of Staff, let's go to the players and try and sell this to them. So Dr. Mustafa and Honorable Edu Asari went to Montenegro, where they were going to play a match, and tried to speak to the players. They said they wouldn't take it. So that was when things, you know, but I had a very good relationship with them. And I knew that we've had several situations where they will ask for a bonus, I'll speak to them, and they will agree. Then we got to Holland, and they now met me and said, if they don't get their 100,000, they were not going to go for it. And I said, look, it's beyond me. This is a cabinet decision. Focus on the playing. Once you win and you go for it.
But 82,500 wasn't such a bad figure.
It was a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. In any case, the going to play for the World Cup alone, representing your country alone, it's an honor. The adverts you get, the teams who buy you and all that. So I just felt that they should have been. But for the first time, they were very reticent. And I found that very strange.
Did you think that they were being buoyed by some
Later on, you know, when upon reflection, and I looked at the attitudes of the three musketeers, you know, those three guys. And then I realized that, oh, you know them, the three guys who were causing the trouble. And then I realized that this was bigger than I thought. So again, we went to America, then we got to Brazil. When we got to Brazil, before the very first match, that's what people don't know. They threatened to boycott the match. And I just thought, World Cup? I mean,
Why didn't you allow them to boycott it?
Maybe I should. But it's easier for you to say this here. Very easy. At that time, can you imagine that footballers boycott because minister couldn't pay them? So I brought in the vice president.
The shame would have been on them most and not the nation. Because if you look across the world, and I always try to go back to England using the English national team.
Nanaba, when this whole thing happened, am I a footballer?
No.
Did I kick a ball?
No.
Did they not get their 100,000?
They did.
Were they not the ones who decided not to train? And that is what affected them. But yet the blame was on me. I took all the blame. They were treated with kid's gloves.
How are you expecting them to be treated?
Well, that's another story for another day. But if you look at what happened and what I went through, I was the one who took all the blame. And yet nobody
Well, because
considered...
you were the minister.
Very good. So I'm just going back to what you're saying, that I should have allowed them to boycott. It's easy for you to say that now. Then I would have been insulted and say I was the most useless person. They didn't even kick a ball. So the vice president then comes in and says, okay, you get your 100,000, so go and train. We had made an arrangement with them to be paid by card through Unibank. Now that we agreed that they would take their 100,000, then the next thing they said they want cash. And I said, come on, this is not possible. This is not what we agreed on. They said, no, unless we see cash, we won't play the next match.
So the footballers took you hostage?
Exactly. You know, and again, there were issues on the pitch of training. You heard about some tiffs with the coach. Again, I thought that at that point, if the coach had also disciplined them and sanctioned them then, perhaps the discipline would have been nipped in the bud, okay? But that didn't happen. And so they went on and on and on. So the president even spoke to them.
Do you think the footballers have stopped trusting the sports authorities? Because they claim that in the past, when they had been promised that this amount of money will be paid to you at this time, the money's never come at that time.
Were they eventually paid?
Yes.
So what
because we had to fly money from Ghana to them in Brazil, and that was a national embarrassment.
Yes, so they would have been paid eventually, and they are always paid eventually. Absolutely. So this business of trust is just a question of indiscipline. And of course, later on I found out that there were other interests, okay?
Did you think you had enemies?
Oh, I knew. It's not everything that the hunter sees in the forest that he can talk about.
You see.
But for now, I know. I have, evidence of people who came to me and said, look, we were given money, we were told to go after you, and we did, and we've come to apologize.
You're joking?
Yes, and I said, I've forgiven you. Once you've come to me, you're forgiven.
And these were people in the sports ministry or the GFO in the media?
Media. Of course, they have to use media.
Do you want to name and shame?
No, I give them my word. You see, I would not disclose my source. So this is something that I can prove. So I know I'm on air. So whatever I say, I know the implications. And they mentioned a few people. I think that this whole business of, he has ambitions and all that. And then I'm told that my problem started with JIDA. JIDA investigations. What did I do? The president sanctioned an investigation. Those guys are my friends. But we had to do what we had to do. We had to save the country. So I, as a servant of the president and the country, I just did what I had to do. No personal ill feelings.
Okay, before you appeared before the Jamefe Commission, had you ever cried publicly?
No. The
Why?
last time I cried publicly was when my grandmother died. I told you my grandmother took care of me.
Yes.
So when she died, I cried.
How many years ago?
Oh, this is early 90s, I think.
So when you cried before the commission, that's you.
Okay.
Cry.
Again.
Yeah, I was right about you, though.
No, again, I think, you see, cry, sob, whatever. But I think the commissioner also got overexcited.
They did?
Yeah, I mean, come on. First of all, I'm sure you're going to ask me
why did you cry? Yeah.
I have 3 answers. I don't know. Because, I mean, anybody who knows me, I'm a tough guy.
You are.
You can't mess around with me.
No.
I am.
Elvis, don't you dare cry.
I am
don't cry.
one hell of a tough guy.
You.
But prior to all this, I had taken in so much. Nana, you have no idea. And that time too, my mistake was that I was not monitoring social media. The kinds of stories. First of all, they claimed that I gave a contract to my wife, which is totally false. They said I gave a contract to my mother, my poor mother. My mother doesn't live here. She doesn't even know the difference between a corner kick and a penalty kick. They claimed that when the supporters went to Brazil, they didn't get a place to sleep. They were queuing for toilets.
Sleeping at stadiums and the airport.
And yet I have video evidence to show you that everybody had a plasma TV, washroom in their rooms. Their bed sheets were being removed. Their rooms were being cleaned by white people. Okay, there was so much food that was when I went to join them to eat food.
I saw that one.
To show that they were not hungry, and they put that on the front page of a paper. So you see, there was an orchestrated agenda. It was clear. Okay, so I had soaked all this, and then I had to be strong for my family. Delaying money. I mean, the forces were too many. So the question the commissioner asked me, some people said, oh, when they asked me about money, then I broke down. No, it had nothing to do with money. It was just a very innocuous question. So when the players refused to train before the Portugal match, how did you feel? That was the simple question. Then immediately my mind went, because I recall that I called the captain and I said, Azama, this is the World Cup. Go and train. You will get your money. This stage is bigger. Your money will come. And I said, if you don't train and the money eventually comes and you get your money, but because you've not been prepared and you lose, how are you going to compensate the country? He said, well, I understand you, but this is what the boys are saying. They said they won't train. And I knew at that point that they had lost it. Because for a footballer, before a crucial match, you cannot miss training. So when he asked me that question, then it's like everything began to come back to me. And so it was just a short, momentary lapse, you know.
The infamous kiss.
Yeah.
From John Boy, is it?
Yeah. When we were giving them the money, you know, they were excited. And I was just watching them. I knew that they had lost their vision and their purpose.
So you were not surprised that we were kicked out so early?
At that point, I was just like, okay, let's just hope. Because you see, football is also science. You need to have a certain amount of training before a match. You need to, your muscles need to be in place. So when they refused to do the last training until they saw money, I just thought that, look, they had lost their vision and their purpose.
And the whole thing was linked to corruption and the fight against corruption. And many people have accused President Mahama of shielding you.
That is the most bizarre shielding in this world. That your campaign...
You saw all this, didn't you?
Your campaign... I was in the convoy. I was at the airport. We received the money. And again, let me just put this on record. The money being sent to Brazil was not illegal.
It wasn't?
No.
Because there are claims that you broke some
no,
laws in Brazil.
No, it's not true. The Brazilian National Security, Brazilian Customs, security officials, they were there. We went through everything. And, you know, we said we won't fly money again, so let's just leave that. But, you know, people
But you know there's a movie being made on it.
It's not true. It's one of those talks. It's not true.
The Hollywood
It's
movie.
total falsehood.
Yeah.
I have my network. It's not true. It's absolute falsehood. It's one of those things. So you're talking about cover-up. Cover-up, you put your minister and campaign coordinator 4 months before a commission. That was not friendly at all. You saw what happened. Live coverage. You call that a cover-up. And then after that, in the course of that, Ernst & Young did a forensic audit. I am very, very clear in my mind that if I had done anything untoward, I won't be sitting here with you.
So because people actually thought that if really the president was taking you out of the sports ministry, why did he take you to the presidency?
Because the president is like somebody flying in a helicopter. He has a bigger view. He sees the bigger picture. People only see in bits. So when all these things are coming out, he says, look, sit aside, go somewhere. Let's go into it. As I said, he said, no, the truth should stand. The president, then this is where I think he's vindicated. Because he told me, so these supporters, you know what they did to us in South Africa? And I said, sir, President Kufuor took supporters to Germany. President Mills took supporters to South Africa. You, the JM swagman, if you don't take supporters, they will laugh at us. So if we are not going to spend state money, give me the permission to raise money so that we can send some supporters. He said, okay, but I have my reservations. I said, okay, we'll do it. So that's how we started raising money. And the money was kept in an account. I was not even a signatory to the account. It had to go through a proper process before you could take 1 penny. The forensic audit report is there. I did not take 1 dime. What the report said was that, for instance, when supporters were stranded at the Brazil airport and somebody went to buy food for them, they said he did not produce a receipt. So they said either he produces the receipt. If he doesn't produce the receipt, then he should pay back. If he doesn't pay back, then I should be held accountable. And the white paper said, no, those are adults. You cannot hold me accountable for something that an adult did. Never in any of those reports did they say they even embezzled money. Eduasare and all those things that he said. We left Brasilia in a haste. So he left the receipts behind. All those receipts, he's made them available.
Okay.
So it was just, you know, and of course, because it's a passion. At that time, I'm sure if at that time I was granting this interview, nobody would listen. People were passionate, so they won't even listen.
Okay, I'll just give the opportunity to one person in the audience to ask you a question. Ralph, you have one question for Mr. Elvis Afriyie Ankrah. We're listening to you.
Okay, it's been interesting listening to you and thinking from a hindsight. I would like to know whether you consider your appointment in the sports ministry as a blessing or a curse.
The Bible says all things work together for good for those who love God, for those who are called according to his purpose. So whatever it is, ultimately it's a blessing.
Has this World Cup issue affected you in any way?
Oh yes, it has. It did. I mean, it's taken the grace of God for me too. Because the agenda was big. Trust me. The agenda was big. I mean, you go back and look at some of those newspaper publications. I was supposed to have been picked up from the airport by BNI, and all kinds of wild things. You know, and I want to put it on record, I'm not a thief, okay? I fought Jida because I had conviction. You understand? You can't do those kinds of things if you don't have conviction. And I had the full support of the president. There are things I can't say. During those periods, threatening text messages, you know, charms and amulets in my house, you have no idea. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You can ask my wife.
I think we should invite your wife to join us now. Please, let's welcome Mrs. Afriyie Ankrah to join us, because I would want to find out from her how she handled all of this with your 3 beautiful children. You know, it's a question I want to put to her.
Welcome.
Thanks. Oh, so beautiful. Anyway, so I mean, your husband has spoke so well of you, how supportive you are. But my first question to you is how you handled that moment of his life with your children.
Huh. Wow. It was difficult, but it was with the grace of God.
What did you tell your children?
I preached to them. we depended on God. We depended on him. We knew God. Oh, that was the Sunday after our wedding.
How many years ago?
That was 18.
Oh my God, look at you, Elvis.
Yes, slim and funky.
Almost 19 years.
Almost 19. So you've been married for almost 19 years?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. So it was just by the grace of God, knowing that God will never forsake you. And then one thing that also took us through is knowing him, knowing the kind of person he was, and knowing that eventually, however long it took, the truth will out. So that helped a lot, because when you believe in the person, it's easy to withstand all the shocks and the insults.
Were you listening to radio?
I was part ways. I mean, living with him, you can't but listen to the news in the morning. Whatever you do, you'll be bombarded with the news in the morning. So
He's monitoring.
Yes, I kind of got used to that. And it was difficult hearing all those things.
When he was called a thief, how did you feel?
That one did not faze me.
Okay.
Because I knew he wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one did not faze me. What I was worried about was how he felt and how the children would also feel about it. But by God's grace, because we had brought them well up in the Lord, they knew and believed in their dad, knew and believed most in God, and they rather kept assuring us that it would be well.
And your son is actually here.
Yes, that's David.
Ask her about when they said I had
gone
out with an actress and paid $20,000 per night.
Actually, I even got to know that on one of my social media networks, my school, when...
That your husband traveled with an actress?
Yes, and they did not know I was there.
Were there? You were there?
They did not know I was there. And where those actresses were like 3 hours from where we stayed. So you couldn't even begin to think about how he could organize a liaison when
and
he
I
was
never met them.
shuffling.
That's
you
the
never
point.
met them?
No, in Brazil, never. Not
Never
once.
met them.
I never set eyes on them. I went to look for them and the players, the former players in their hotel. They were not there. And then I flew back to base. And yet, it was all over.
So it was ridiculous, to say the least. But then, knowing where he was at every point, we talk a lot. That has been our thing.
Well, he's a communicator.
Yes, he is. So it didn't make sense. That one, I wasn't worried about it.
What was the reaction of friends and family?
Some stood firm with us. Some we didn't hear of again. And you could know
Typical.
those, yes, and you knew those who pretended but spoke behind your back. I mean, even in church, you knew people were speaking behind your back because those who were concerned may try and hint you to be careful of some. Even as recently as 3 weeks ago, a friend brought it up because she had to defend me and show them evidence of my being in Brazil then, because that person was talking, and that's a fellow church member. I mean,
Okay, I think a lady in the audience has a question for you, Mrs. Afriyie Ankrah. Tatas.
Hello, ma'am. I would like to know how you were coping with the Jamefe Commission hearing when your husband was constantly in the spotlight.
Prayer.
Great.
How did you feel when he cried?
Do you know, I was in the market and a friend called me.
That your husband is crying on TV?
That, no, I should get to him, I said, what is happening? He said, look, they kept hammering him and it's so silly. He broke down. And I went, oh no. I mean, I stood in a spot for like 5 minutes. I'm sure the women didn't know why I was standing there. But I just stood there for a while just to gather composure. I just immediately started praying too. So I just kept going, God give him strength, God give him strength.
Okay.
I mean, that's the best we can hope for.
Okay, so back to answering her question about how you coped with
how
it.
you cope, prayer. And if you know him and you believe in him, it helps.
Okay.
In fact, it is the ultimate. So it's up to the men in position or in power to also be open to their partners so that the partner will know that. And I've had to do a lot of counseling. I'm a marriage counselor as well.
Oh, nice.
I've had to do a lot of counseling as well for the ladies to know that when he's out late, it could be that it isn't another woman, but it is work, because I've lived with that. So you need to talk to the person, be open. That helps.
That's your family.
Yeah, when they were younger.
Yeah.
You know.
And when you were younger.
This is our 10th
Yeah.
anniversary.
I'm still young. What do you mean?
Yeah.
You know.
Oh.
So,
Oh, wow.
The memories.
yeah, my beard, I need to get it back, you know.
You need to get it, but you look so different.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody said, oh my goodness.
I was looking airy. You know?
Anyway, so you have only one daughter.
Yes.
The favorite of the family?
Oh yeah, she is her father's girl.
Princess.
I mean, she is.
That's you and your daughter.
She is. I mean, the boys accept that. I mean, they
can't compete.
they make good use of that.
They send her.
When they need
Oh
something.
yeah, they make good use of
Very
that.
strategic. Kudos to you. Very, very strategic. Anyway, we have to wrap up on the interview very soon. But I have just one more question for you. What would make a man cheat on his wife?
I'm not an expert, but as human as we are, the Bible says flee. You understand me?
Yeah.
So if you find yourself in a situation that can lead to trouble and you don't flee, all the other sins, Bible says bind the devil, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Bind him, cast him out. When it comes to that one, they say flee.
Have you found yourself in that situation before? And how did you flee? If you did.
No comments.
I'm sure she's interested in the answer.
Oh, that's we
That's
talk.
my feel.
We
so.
talk.
You're a counselor.
We talk. We discuss everything. You know. So that's between us.
You guys have some interesting things.
Are you convinced?
Unfortunately, the two shall be one. It didn't say plus audience.
Thank you very much, Elvis Afriyie Ankrah. It's been a pleasure talking to you and your wife. You're such a lovely woman. Your picture was there a few minutes ago. Black beauty.
Thank you.
That's where you are. Thank you so much. And thank you for supporting him throughout.
Yes.
Is he a stubborn husband?
Oh no.
You actually...
No, he isn't. He's firm.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I told a friend last week that the person you marry should be able to help you grow. So even if I come to him with an issue where somebody has hurt me or anything of that sort, you always play devil's advocate so that you would think about the other person's reactions. So he's firm, and that helps. Is it difficult? No. No,
Okay,
I know how to get around. I know how to get around that.
You have your way with him. You have a way with him. Okay, thank you very much. Round of applause for them.
And you're still here on State of Affairs on GhOneTV. We are wrapping up the show. I trust you enjoyed that interview with the former Youth and Sports Minister, Elvis Afriyie Ankrah. We had his wife join in that interview with Nana Aba Namwa. Subsequently, it was an informative interview. I know you enjoyed it. That's it for the show tonight. We are wrapping up with these messages from our Muslim brothers and sisters as they celebrate Eid al-Fitr today. My name is Abina Ousunyamiche. Thank you for watching.